All right, so as I mentioned at the very end of the last video, we have this function called the len function, L-E-N, okay? So the len function returns the length of a sequence as a list, okay? So essentially, as we come back here, if I were to call len on even numbers, I would get 5, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the top index of even numbers would be the number that len function returns, which is 5, minus 1. So I can go up to 4. Okay, so len will always give you the number of elements, and so the indexes start at 0, so you have to do len minus 1. Okay, now if you try to go beyond that length, okay, or to that length, I guess I should say. So the len of even numbers is going to return 5. If I try to get the 5th element of even numbers, it's actually going to try to go right here to the end, which says there's nothing there. Okay, so what it'll return is an index error. Okay, so the index error exception is raised if an invalid index is used. So if you try to go beyond the length of your list, you're going to get an index error. Now remember, you can handle that index error with an exception, okay, which is really, 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 really useful. Okay, so again, the len function returns the length of the sequence such as a list. So this is the way that it looks. So size equals length of the list. Okay, and I'll show you this. So it returns the number of the elements in the list. So the index of the last element is list minus 1. Can be used to prevent index error exceptions when iterating over list. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked through some of these ideas, let's go ahead and mess around with some lists in PyCharm. Okay, so I have a brand new project open here. I'm going to go ahead and open a new Python file. We're going to call this chapter 7. And we're going to mess around. Now, because I always want to make sure that you have a conditionally executed main, we're obviously going to start with a conditionally executing main method. All right, so obviously we know how to do this. And then we're going to define our main. And we're going to hit pass. Make sure there's an extra line there because PyCharm wants that. So now we have a function. We're going to run this, make sure it works. Everything's good. Okay, so let's mess around with these lists. So what we have over here is we have some examples of lists. Okay, so let's just make an even numbers list. So the way that I do that is I give it a name, and then I use the square brackets, and then I give it the numbers. Oops. There we go. All right, so we have now created a list of even numbers. There you go, even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, so now we know that we have the print function that we can actually print that out. So let's go ahead and test how we can look at that list. Print even numbers. There we go. So let's run that. There we go. We get on the console what is inside of that list, okay, which is really, really nice. Now, we talked about this idea of a length function, right? So right over here, we have a length function. Okay, so let's go ahead and mess around with the length of even numbers. Now, again, we're going to count this. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements. So let's go ahead and use this len function. Oops, I better spell it correctly. There we go. All right, so we have the length of even numbers. So what we're expecting to see on the output is 5, correct? All right, there we go. We have 5. Okay, so our length says it's 5. Now, this counts up from 0, so this will be the 0th element. This will be the first element, second element, third element, and fourth element. So obviously, if we try to grab the index 5, it's going to give us an index error. Okay, so let's go ahead and mess around now with iterating through this even numbers list. Okay, so we can use the for loop. So we're going to go for element. We can call it element. We can call it num because this is a number. In even numbers, of course, we can call it Gary if we want to call it. We can call it anything that we want to. So for num and even numbers, we're going to go ahead and just print num. Okay, so we see, obviously, we understand what these loops look like. We have a target variable, okay, called num. We have a list called even numbers. Even numbers is this list here. So for the first iteration, it's going to grab the 0th element. It's going to put that into num, and then I'm going to print num. For the second iteration, it's going to grab the first element, and it's going to put that in num, print it, that into num, print it, that into num, print it, and then move on forward. Okay, so we should know what we're going to see. So we're going to see the length of it, and then we're going to see everything print on different lines. Okay, so there we go, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We actually have those even numbers printing. Okay, so that's sort of how you iterate through these lists, okay, for x in list. Now, if you want to see what this repetition operator looks like, we can actually change even numbers. So we can say even numbers equals even numbers times 2. Okay, so what you're going to see is that now even numbers is twice as long with the same values. So we're going to just use the print function, and we're going to just go ahead and print that out. So there you go. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, and we can, we can multiply that times 3, and we can see now that it's 3 times as long. We can multiply that times 30, and we can now see that it's 30 times as long. Okay, so you can mess around with that repetition operator, play around with it, and think about how you could use that and maybe some creative solutions. So again, coming back to this indexing thing. So we have the 0 index, we have the 0, the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. So let's say I want to just grab the 0. No, let's say I want to grab the first element. So I know if I'm looking at this, I have index 0, which is going to be 2. Index 1 is going to be 4. Index 2 is going to be 6. Index 3 is 8. And index 4 is 10. Okay, so we know that we have those indexes. And we can tell that we have those indexes because when we return the length, it gives us 5, and that means the number of elements that we have is 4, or the number of indexes that we have, we can count up to 4. So again, I can make that work by just saying print length of even numbers minus 1. So that's n minus 1. So now we have 4 elements. So we can go up to 4 is what we can do. So let's say we want to just grab the 1, the index 1. Okay, so the way that we do that, and I'm going to sort of separate this, and I need you to learn this. Okay, so I want you to practice this a bunch. Okay, so when I print the even numbers, it gives me the entire list, which I need to just get rid of this because that's going to be kind of annoying. Okay, so I have 0 through 4 on even numbers. Okay, this is going to print the entire list. If I want just one element, I'm going to use the square brackets right at the end of that name. Okay, so you can see it's the name of the list, no spaces, no nothing, square brackets. And in those square brackets, I'm going to give the index that I want. Okay, so if I want the first index, I give it 1. Okay, so now that I've done the first index, I know this is 0 and this is 1, so I should see a 4 print out right here. So let's run that. And there we go. We have a 4. And then I can do that same thing over and over again if I want to. And I can print the second, and I can print the third. And you're going to see those values coming out, 4, 6, 8. Now, what I want to show you is this index error, okay? If I try to throw out some index that doesn't exist, which we know 5 is too long, right? So let's go ahead and try to throw in the length of even numbers in here. Now, to unpack this is really long, okay, but I want you to see. Let's just break it down into chunks. I'm going to get the length of even numbers, and we know that's going to return 5. So you can imagine now in these square brackets, this is the number 5. Okay? So then I have even numbers is a list. So I'm going to try to get the 5th index number 5 out of even numbers. Okay? And that'll return that value. Okay? The 5th index of even numbers. And then right here I have print, okay? And then I'm just going to print it. All right, so don't be intimidated when you start seeing things stack up here a little bit. I'm just grabbing the length, which will turn out to be 5. I'm grabbing the element at index 5, and then I'm printing it. Now, obviously, if you're listening and sort of thinking about this, you understand there is no index 5, right? Because we went through and we understand there is no index 5. There is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. There is no index 5. Okay, so what that's going to say is it's going to try to go grab index number 5. It's going to say there is no index number 5, and then it's going to throw an error at you. Okay, here you go. Here is your index error, list index out of range. Okay, so anytime you try to reach beyond the bounds of a list, you're going to get a index error list out of range. Okay, that means you're either counting up too far, you're counting to len. If you see this usually, it means you're not doing the n minus 1. Okay, so you want to make sure n minus 1. Make sure you use n minus 1. Remember that. Okay, so len gets you the number of elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we start counting at 0, which means the top element is 4, which is 5 minus 1. Okay, if len gives us 20, the top index is going to be 19, 20 minus 1. Okay, so make sure you remember the n minus 1. And then you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up to 19. Okay, and then you can index, you can grab those if you want to. You can print those out. You can do whatever you want. Now, what's cool about this indexing, you can also assign data into it. So you can actually set even numbers. Let's say, we're going to mess it up because it's not going to be even numbers anymore. But let's set element number or index number 1 to 45. And now we can go ahead and print even numbers, and we'll see that we actually changed it. Nope. Sorry, I got to get this out of here because we're going too far. So now we're going to go ahead and see that we actually changed that element to 45. Okay? So we changed it, which means it is mutable. Change means mutable. Okay? So where we can get, so this is getting, printing or saving to a variable is getting. Okay, so I'm retrieving data out of that list. Over here, changing data in list is setting. Oops, not 3. There we go. Okay, so printing or saving to a variable is getting. Changing data in a list is setting. So I'm setting into that list. If I want to put something else back in that list, this is what I have to do. Okay? All right, so we're going to take a quick break here. We're going to jump back and keep moving through our chapter. Take a little time, open up your PyCharm, mess around with some of this stuff, and then we'll see you on the next video.